Hey guys, how are you doing? I recently made a video about like the first impression of Arknights Endfield, and there I went briefly over like combat and other stuff like that. Today I thought like it would be really important to show you more in-depth about the gameplay, how the combat feels, how fun is it, and like all the important mechanics there are to know. Like it will differ from the final version of the game, for sure. But I thought like in the state that it is right now, that you can make it more easy picture about like how the gameplay feels, how fun it is, maybe how not so fun it is, maybe what you can, just so you can make your own picture about it. And I think it's just important for you that if you want to judge the game right, that you get a more detailed look in all the things that are in the game. And so for this, I will make like a very brief, not brief, I will go in depth, but I will make like in a very short form video to explain you what you need to know about the combat so far. And the first thing you need to know is like, you have a normal attack, there is no charge, there is no block, there is no dodge. That is something very intriguing. But you can most likely do normal attack if you don't have any skills available. If you have never skills available, most of the time, and you have to wait like for 8 seconds, you're doing something wrong. You always have to make sure you use the skills in the right time, and you have to make sure that you have some skills available if you need to. So the first thing I want to explain you is one of the main mechanics is knockback, knockdown, and lift. And so, for example, lift is if you have a skill, you use it and it puts out or gives the enemy like airtime. He's in the mid-air and he can't do shit when he's there. Then there's knockdown, which you push him to the ground and he can't do shit at the ground. And then there's knockback, you push him into the wall and he can't do shit. So those are like the main three things. You can combine those things. So if they're mid-air and you knock them down, they get additional damage. And they also lose one break bar. I'm also gonna explain this later. If you knock them down first and lift them up in there, they also lose an additional break bar. So, what are break bars? If we go into the battle, right there, you have to watch the HP bar. Underneath the HP bar, there are like some lines. Those lines indicate how many skills you have to use until they're broken. And in that state, they're stunned. So, for example, I will cast now Angelina's skill. This is lifting the enemies up. I will push them down. This is now the knockback, right? I knock them down. Now Angelina's skill activated. They get lifted up in the air, and they would stay there if they would be stronger. But like, this is how you use it. Now this way, you kinda have crowd control. They are not able to attack you when they're mid-air or when they're knocked down, and that is very strong. Another thing you can do, right, is if you attack them, like if you attack one from behind, they get stunned. So if I do this, he's now stunned. And you see there, those are the break bars, the 4 lines you see there. I'm gonna, for example, do this. Also, by the way, he's charging an attack. I can break this attack with an ability. That's why keeping the abilities are so important. And you see here, I used the skill, he had only 1 break bar. Like he lost 1 break bar. Using a skill here, he loses a break bar. Very simple. And if you break the bar, they will not have like they will be stunned for a certain period amount of time and they will take more damage. So very good. There's also skills. There's also ultimates. So for example, I can use now an ultimate and it deals a shit ton of damage. Like obviously every ultimate is unique. Some deal more damage, some deal less damage. The thing is, I'm a little bit over leveled already. So since I played pretty much 30 hours or some shit. So I know the game's basics. So it's pretty much like you try to have them lifted up all the time, to knock them down all the time. You have the skills available, and you have the skills also if you need to prevent the enemy from attacking you with like a very strong attack. And so like to keep the gameplay simple, my main strategy is like to attack from behind, use Ancient since she has cast time, then knock them down. I didn't have the right attack with me, but you see here, they pretty much can't do shit in that time. There's 2 more enemies spawning. I want to prevent this charging attack. I use Gen. And there we go. Now, there's another thing, right? So, if I use an ability, after I use the ability, there's something called the Pursue attack. It's 1 attack after the ability that deals bonus damage. You see, I'm lighting up. My character had like those lightnings around, right? Those are there that I have like additional damage after attack. Most characters have like this Pursue attack. And you have different abilities, like different things that will increase the damage of the Pursue attack. And it's like after the skill, you have just this 1 additional attack that deals just more damage than the average normal attack. So it's a pretty fire thing. And so some people call this combat system very brain dead. And if you watch someone that has no idea what he's doing, it might actually be the case. Since they would just like throw in all the attacks at the same time, and it's just not efficient at all. And you obviously don't want this. You always want to have like some like Pro Tour attack maybe. You want to have like a backup skill available. Maybe like watch for example Chen, right? Chen's SP you see in the bottom is it's number 1 by the way. It's this one. Once I hit an enemy, that skill will charge, so I get an ultimate. And like this is how the best preparation is for the game. If you are aiming to try to beat a very, very difficult enemy, you want that all your allies don't have the ultimate, but are 1 before the ultimate. The reason for that being is right after I use the skill, the ultimate will be immediately usable. And so if we go against this one that will probably fuck me in the ass because it's level 60 and very strong, you will see that I have immediately after I use Chen's skill, I can use it immediately again. Good. For this one, I will use now Chen. Good. Now I have the ult available and I can immediately go with the ult. So I can deal a shit ton of damage with like in a matter of seconds. And that's why having like being one before the ult is always very important and very, very, very strong. There's another thing that I want to display, but it doesn't really work for this enemy. We're gonna go back to another rift. But you can see pretty much what it is. You saw also now it's broken, right? I deal more damage in that time. I can do pretty well. And with that, we have been a level 60 enemy that I struggled along. Like, I struggled a lot when I was a little bit lower level. You also, Ancient is pretty much soon dead. Like, that shit dealt damage if you were not using crowd control well. So, another really, really, really important thing is the orbs. Orb mechanic is something you can compare to Genshin pretty much. Let me just go to the right teleporter so I can display this a little bit better. But like, you haven't seen me using Cesith that much, right? It's because I wanted that you don't see this yet. If I go into like the tutorials in this game, there is something called elemental orbs. Those orbs trigger with like certain abilities. And if I attack, for example, like Angelina, the AoE attack, I can trigger those orbs and they can synergize. There's 3 elemental types right now: Pulse, Thermal, and Lattice, something like that. And for example, Pulse and Pulse gives like bonus damage there. You have Electrify, which is Lattice and Pulse. You have Combust, which is Thermal and Thermal, which is pretty much like Fire and Fire. And they have Thermal and Pulse, and like those different elemental things. And all of them have like different abilities. Like for example, this is target is also immobilized for the next 5 seconds. Like a little smart thing. And using those elemental orbs is very important. And I can't tell you how many times those orbs allow me to beat a hard battle I struggled so much against. Most of the time I was able to clear something very difficult. It was because I was able to utilize those orbs pretty well. And so it's not just you have to take care about the skills that you have, that you obviously have ways to interrupt the enemy's very charging attacks, that you have your skills soon available, and that you have like ultimates available and use them well, that you use the Pursue attack, but also make sure that you have the orbs. And so when people say like the gameplay feels a little bit like plain and boring, I would say most of these that have this argument haven't really understood the gameplay that well. Like, there's still, like, I also requested a charge attack, a light and heavy attack, or a dodge would bring more variety into the gameplay when there's no skill available. Sometimes this actually happens. But I think it would also like add more like skill as well into it. And therefore, for me personally, I would love to see some kind of this being added to the game. Another thing is, you will most likely have to heal a lot in this game. You have to press E and can quickly heal all of your units up like this. In battle, you can only use one at a time, like one every 10 seconds, depending on what you use. But using the heals, always make sure that that your team is healed if you are planning to beat something difficult. Very important, don't forget about it. Now if we go into the LMV stage. I go into this stage because it's the best stage to show off the elemental reactions. In this stage, there's a unique mechanic. Most of the stages, most of the rifts, have a unique mechanic. And as for this one, elemental orbs drop randomly. And since I have a very good team for using elemental orbs, I will be able to utilize on them pretty well. And so I go into the middle, so I trigger the freaking rift. The enemy should be spawning here eventually. Here. So I use her, which has the chance to regenerate orbs. You see here, it regenerated one. Now I can use Ancient. And you can see those things, right? Shatter. Very fucking strong. So not utilizing them would be very, very dumb. And so always having a team that can work well with like those orbs is so important. And so I don't think personally the gameplay is plain and boring. I would say there is really enough depth to it. Certainly there could be things that could be better or worse, but I would say the gameplay like this is fun enough. And it's not like, at first it is kind of a little bit overwhelming to play smart. So when I first played it, I pretty much only power creeped it. But since I know now how the game works, it is very fun to abuse those freaking orbs. Like, I know how strong those are. Like the shatter thing, right? It's so fun and broken. Now, again, I'm over leveled. I am having an easy time because I have been clearing that a few times and I have already very well leveled units. But this is pretty much everything there is about the gameplay. There's a few minor things that go with this. There is mutual immunity. Some enemies are immune to crowd control. One of those enemies that I've encountered that have this is an ape. Sounds dumb, but like the ape, for example, you can't do crowd control unless you break them. For example, if they use a charging attack, you see like the red circle we talked about earlier. If you break them in the right time, you get rid of their immunity. And then you can use like the knockback, knockdown, lift and stuff like that as well. And you want to make sure that you timed it well, that you know the enemy pattern. So I hope that the gorilla spawned here again. Yeah. So if I not do anything here against attacking it. Right now you see it doesn't have any shield. I can knock it down. You see it's knocked down. Fine, I can do damage if I would want to. Now, I don't do anything anymore. Now you see the shield. It has mental immunity. Doesn't matter what I do. It's not getting crowd controlled. It doesn't have a lot of HP since, again, I'm strong. But I can't do crowd control on it. So to get rid of it, I would have to wait for him to use a charge attack. And when he successfully did a charge attack and I can break it, I can finally use knockback and knockdown and stuff like that again. And very important that I learn the enemy pattern. If I don't, well, I will not get anywhere. Also, I just saw something I haven't collected. But like all in all, I'd say the depth for the gameplay, I am very, very, very happy with. I would say for the combat, I explained everything. Basic attacks, skill casting, like some enemies, like the skill casting like this. The only thing I haven't talked about is operator channeling, which is pretty much what Angelina is. It's not something you need to know, but like for example, I'm now on, like when I activate the skill, right? I'm on Angelina. I'm using the skill now. I'm not Angelina anymore because she needs casting time. And so I need to make sure that when I have someone with channeling, that I will switch to my damage dealer. Because it wouldn't make sense that I use now her, which deals a lot less damage with her basic attacks than like my damage dealer. And so when I have someone with channeling, you need to make sure that your team composition makes sure that it automatically switches to the one that is supposed to deal damage, instead of the one that is just standing there and maybe do like a little bit of fluff. So team combat, like every time you saw it before, when you're attacking an enemy, it's also pretty much, they do something. They're not just standing there, they will attack. It's just not their decoration. They do something, but they also get hit in that time. So be careful when, for example, using Angelina's casting skill. You saw it before, right? Be careful about that. Because in that time, Angelina can get attacked, right? So if I do this, and right now someone is doing an AoE attack on us, Angelina is guaranteed to get hit. And so using her skill, not in a dumb moment, important. Some people, for that reason, don't like to use her. I had someone in the chat earlier. It is difficult, but on the other hand, she's my only character right now that is dealing 100k damage. If you see how much damage my other characters are dealing, you know 100k is not bad. And therefore it makes sense to, at least for me, I like Angelina. It makes sense to have her in the team. Like for example, it depends on if she crits or not, right? 71k damage. I use the ult. This is single target. Ult, single target. This 14,000, 7,000, something like that. It's for a single target ultimate, by the way, not a normal attack, ultimate. And Shania deals that much more damage. And therefore, for me, she's also my favorite character to use. She's fun. You can pretty much lay traps, right? If an enemy is chasing you, you can use that delayed attack, right? So if it walks into, you can lure it into. You have an attack without risking to take damage. And I love this staff for it. Therefore, for me, she's my favorite character. For the people that say like the combat is plain and boring, which I at first was also unsure if it's plain and boring since I always used all my skills at the same time and I couldn't do shit anymore. It really depends like how well you understood it. The more well you understood and the more strong the enemies are, you will find a lot of joy doing that stuff. Also, there's like red rifts, right? They're insanely difficult. It's like the final thing to show you how difficult the gameplay is. It took me like 5 tries, 6 tries with best preparations to beat this with all-leveled units. Like, those are strong. It's the 2 gorillas, and how the fuck do you beat them? Like, they are so strong. As soon as they get immunity up and everything, you are fucked. You're just hard fucked. First has immunity, right? And now I need to dodge this one. That deals half of the damage, right? I beat this, by the way. And now it's like I have this elemental orb that I kind of fucked up. He stuns me, so if the other one attacks me, it's like if I just do random button press without thinking, I have no chance. There is no universe where I beat those. There is just no universe. And so important, I use my brain. I use break bar. I think about my movements. I think about in which order I attack those enemies. That I have even a chance to beat them. Like, it is not plain and boring. Against certain rifts that are for endgame, you will be having a fun time trying to beat those. You saw now. I was just fucked in the ass. There's nothing else but getting fucked here. And so, with that fail here, I hope I was able to present you that it might seem boring and easy at first, but if you actually try to beat endgame content, if they once have endgame content out, it will be difficult. You will most likely have a fun time, trial and error, figuring out the strategy, maybe using buffs. I didn't use buffs for this, but like with the right setup and everything, with learning the enemy pathing and the enemy attacks and pattern, you will be struggling, you will have fun playing it. Someone, like Fiverr said this very well in his Twitter. This game might not be for everyone, but it was for him. The same goes for me. It's not for everyone, this game, especially like base heavy, which I haven't displayed today. This game is not for everyone, but at least I rarely play the game so much in the recent time. I've put in like less than a week, about 20 to 30 hours. I enjoyed it. I had a good time playing it, and once it's out, I will be playing it, and that's the most important thing. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice one. Bye bye, Sai. Have a good one, and see ya.